plays host to round number 5 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. It's a driver's favorite, it's a fan favorite as well, and Mother Nature, well, she's playing favorites too. Perfect weather conditions as we get set for the 5th race of this 2022 season. Hello everyone, I'm Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish joins me in the broadcast booth. We'll have Amanda Busick reporting from the pit lane as we are just about set to go on the first of 2 90-minute races for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, here this weekend at a track, Calvin, that everyone looks forward to going to.
It's always a treat to come back here, certainly calling the action, but certainly driving for these teams and drivers. They're licking their lips here this afternoon. Perfect weather conditions, a lot cooler than we've seen all week long, and that will certainly have an effect on the setups of these race cars.
Well, we can talk about the track, but why don't we see it from the driver's eye? How about it? Our track preview, courtesy of Laura Spinelli.
Here you are coming onto the front straight, very long front straight. Enough time to kind of relax your hands, look at the temperature gauges, make sure everything's all good. Going into turn 1, a really heavy braking zone, immediate trail off into the brakes, kind of roll the speed into the corner. Make sure you're using all the track on the exit, going up through the gears, making sure we're coming back to the right side, flat out for the slow left kink here. Going into turn 3, easy off the brakes, really roll speed there. You can see that the corner is very flat, so it's a lot of mechanical grip through that. Going here into 4A, started the lower S's, as we like to call it. Really high mechanical grip here. You know, the car has to have really good tires to ensure you're rolling a lot of speed through here. This is a very crucial sector, as you can lose a lot of time or make up a lot of time through this part here. Here we go, starting into the Virginia signature area, the climbing hill S's. This can be done easily flat out, but as of here, the tires were a little bit older, so weren't able to do that. Going downhill into turn 10, making sure you're using all the track, especially the curbing on the exit there. Going up here into 11, braking at the 2 marker, really trying to roll the car in. Going here into 12, Oak Tree Bend signature corner here at the track. And here we go, extremely long back straight, really making use of all that V8 6.3 liter power. Making sure we're relaxed, getting ready, going into the big braking zone, braking at the 1 board, going down into the gears, and here we do have some live traffic here, not a problem. Making sure we're using all the power and all the grip of those Pirelli slicks. Coming down here into the roller coaster, a little bit offline because you did pass a car, but not a problem here. To make sure we're using all the track out and using all the track on the way back on the exit, making sure we get the proper run for that front straight. And that was a lap around Virginia International Raceway. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks to Stephen Agakani for that trip around VIR, the teammate to Laura Spinelli. And tell you what, this U.S. Racetronics team, Calvin, they have been strong at every round so far, and this weekend has been no exception. Both Agakani, who starts an impressive 2nd for race 1, and his teammate Spinelli have been very fast all weekend.
Definitely going to be a factor once again. Been knocking on the door for that first victory. Have held the lead on a couple of occasions this year. Just need to seal the deal. They're trying to fine-tune some of their issues that they've had on pit lane with some wheels and so forth, but certainly a very strong team, fast Mercedes AMG.
Starting grid, Michele Beretta, on pole for K-Pax Racing. New team for him starting in the last round at NOLA, switching over from TR3, Stephen Agakani alongside. Misha Goikhberg has the sister K-Pax car starting 3rd, with Charlie Scardina starting 4th overall in the top AM class car. Impressive in qualifying this morning. Michael Dynan qualified his Turner Motorsport BMW 5th after some setbacks throughout the course of the weekend. Chandler Hull and a similar BMW M4 GT3 will start 6th. From Bimmerworld, George Kurtz, a winner earlier today in GT America powered by AWS, starts 7th. Then Justin Weatherill for Triarci Competizione in 8th. Scott Smithson and Ashton Harrison in Racer's Edge, they will start 9th and 10th overall, with Harrison in the car that will be on the overall pole tomorrow for race 2. Charlie Luck and Samantha Tan start in row 6. David Askew and Jeff Burton in row 7. Ziad Gondor alongside Frank Gannett in row 8. J.C. Sada and Aaron Vogel in row 9. And Jason Harward will start at the back of the pack in the number 88 Lamborghini for Zelus Motorsports. It's a great field of cars, 3 different classes, Pro, Pro-Am, and Am, but all racing identical GT3 spec machinery. And we've got a nice mix of Pro and Pro-Am looking ahead to tomorrow for race 2 on the starting grid. But even here in race 1, especially if we were to grab a late yellow when the pros are in the Pro-Am cars, Cal, it could be a wild race towards the end. More on that subject in just a moment, but first, let's hear from Amanda down in the pits.
Biggest story that I have in Fanatec GT as we kick off race number 5 in this season. You might be wondering why I'm standing in front of this tire warmer. Well, after qualifying, Stephen Agakani came over here and unfortunately grabbed it with his left hand, has seared the inside of his left hand. He was seen by the medical center. He is clearly racing in this race today, albeit through pain. But you talked about what it's going to take for this team to seal the deal on winning a race here in Loris. We talked about the struggles that you guys have seen in race 2 over the last couple events. What's it going to take to get the top podium for this team?
Strong performance in both qualifying for us. We are worked really hard for the race pace. I think it's the key for the race. It's really hot. Steven will start in front row, so let's see how it will go the first corner. But how you said, we are looking forward for the good race pace.
What can you tell us about Steven's injury?
I mean, he's really calm. You know that we need points, and I do the maximum for bring it. Thank you.
Thanks to Laura Spinelli for the insights there. And yeah, that's interesting to hear about that injury, and it goes to show just how hot these tire ovens are.
Yeah, that's definitely. It's ironic that they've been having wheel and tire issues so far this year, and even before the green flag here today. But maybe they've got it out of the way to have a good clean run and maybe get that top step, as Amanda alluded to. But you got to feel that Gogo is going to be trying to get a good run off that second row of the grid in the bright green number 3 Lamborghini. They've had issues this weekend. Had to do an engine change, had a slight off in one of the practice sessions and repair to that race car. So been on the back foot this week.
Up and down this grid, it's hard to find a team that would say we've had a smooth weekend to this point. Everyone has had their trials and tribulations, but it's time to put those in the rearview mirror and go racing for race 1 of the weekend. Round 5 of the season at Virginia International Raceway. Once again on pole, the number 1 out of the K-Pax Racing stable with Michele Beretta starting that Lamborghini. He'll have Stephen Agakani starting alongside. Then it's Misha Goikberg and Charlie Scardina. Michael Dinan and Chandler Hull make up row number 3. The field in perfect formation, looking for the green flag, waiting for Tom Hansing to hang out the side of that starter stand and display it. And now he does. Great jump for Beretta. 3 wide further back. That's a big move from Chandler Hull in the Bimmer World BMW. And here comes Goikberg, like you called, Calvin, from the second row. He slots up into the second spot.
Dinan takes over the 3rd position in that number 96 Turner Motorsport BMW. So Agakani from the front row just got jumped there. May have been in a little bit low down in the RPM range. Couldn't react to it. Suddenly loses a couple of spots early.
Tough start for him. Charlie Scardina also appears to have dropped back a few spots from his 4th place starting position. It's a K-Pax 1-2, but then you get Michael Dinan up 2 positions early in that Turner car. He's running 3rd.
Chandler Hull on his 2nd pole position in the Pro-Am division. Has a nice clean start as well. Running well with that Bimmer World BMW M4. There he is. 4th car in the shot right there.
Not a great start for Agakani. Now he's coming under pressure from Chandler Hull, who has been driving with a lot of confidence in recent rounds, paired up with Bill Oberlin in GT World Challenge America.
Yeah, Agakani just trying to regroup here, get back into a rhythm. The team was certainly thinking about maybe he could make a move down into turn 1 for the lead. Well, suddenly he's out of the top 3.
Yeah, he's on the back foot now, and those cars in front of him, many of them are those that he's racing in the pro class. Already these drivers thinking about getting tire temperature, tire pressure, weaving back and forth down Madison Avenue for the first time.
Very much. There you see the car's a little bit low to the ground with the tire pressure not quite there yet. So that Mercedes jumps around a little bit into the brake zone. Dinan's having a really good run here at a moment right at this part of the racetrack in a practice session yesterday morning. That will hurt your confidence a little bit, but Michael's up on the wheel, a really solid start for him.
Really good start, something we saw out of him frequently last year, but that was with the old BMW M6, which was a rocket ship in a straight line. The M4 still has some of those characteristics, but it's a more well-rounded machine.
And the 96 and the 6 car did have some argy-bargy at the last round of the championship. Robbie Foley and Spinelli got together, unfortunately broke the suspension on the BMW. They didn't score points that day, so they're in a bit of a hole trying to make a rebound here today.
That prompted Turner Motorsport team owner Will Turner to utter the famous line, "Who's even driving that car, spaghetti?" Well, Laura Spinelli and US Racetronics, they didn't like that so well. They've got a graphic on the back of their Mercedes that says, "Eat my spaghetti." And they'd like to put that out in front of the Turner BMW so Michael Dinan can read it.
Yeah, and as we said this morning, probably Turner will have a pretty good comeback on that one. They're a lively group, like to have a lot of fun with their racing, even though they take it super seriously, of course.
Good start from Ashton Harrison. We're on board with her here, up 4 spots on that opening lap.
Yes, he was one of the drivers that got caught out a little bit with the session being stymied somewhat. So she's on the rebound, but just continues to impress. Put down a good last lap flyer and then got balked on her last final lap of qualifying. Otherwise, she could have potentially been further up. But a great start here. Sits second in Pro-Am, 6 on the road, right behind the Pro-Am leader, Chandler Hull.
And we know this car is capable because her co-driver, Mario Farnbacher, put it on overall pole for race 2 tomorrow. And Ashton Harrison now starting to show some of the strength of this Acura NSX.
A BIM World entry. They've had a solid season so far. Chandler Hull teamed up with Billy Orban. They had 3 podiums at the first 4 races. Second race at Sonoma, they had some issues, but other than that, very much in the championship picture.
Nice, clean start for K-Pax. This is exactly how they would have hoped it would have transpired, with Beretta able to sprint away from pole. He's got a 1.2-second lead over the sister car, Misha Goikberg driving. Then it's Dinan, a further 1.4 seconds back in third. Agakani has slipped back to 4th, running in that spot at the moment with Chandler Hull and Ashton Harrison not too far behind him.
That number 1 car is undefeated so far this year. First 2 rounds with Jordan Pepper and Caldarelli. Caldarelli now teamed with Beretta with the rule change, which means that a silver graded driver has to be aboard the lineup from rounds 3 on. But it's not going to be that easy, even though it's like anyone tuning in may say, well, that's typical, seeing these K-Pax Lambos up front. Let me tell you, when the pros get on board, Caldarelli and Pepper are going to have their work cut out. So it's really up to Beretta and Goikberg to try and gap the field a little bit and give their co-drivers a little bit of a helping hand here today.
Yeah, we saw just how tight it is between the pros in the Pro-Am lineups and the pros in the pro lineups in qualifying earlier today for race 2 of the weekend. Agakani wringing the neck of that Mercedes. He had a bit of a moment there going through those uphill S's, but was able to corral that race car and now continues his pursuit of Michael Dinan.
Yeah, Michael Dinan just gaining confidence in this BMW M4 platform, brand new to SRO competition this year. He's had a really solid start, just been very competitive on the global platform with the GT3 championships around the world. And talking to Jay O'Connell, the technical director with Turner Motorsports, he said Michael's just really strong in this race car. He's really good when the tires are new. A little bit to learn compared to his teammate Robbie Foley on worn tires, but early in the runs, you know he gets up on the wheel, as you mentioned, Ryan. Very strong at the starts here.
There's something about motorsport. When 2 cars collide in the previous race, they seem to find each other in the next one, and that's what we've got here. This was the hot rivalry leaving NOLA Motorsports Park last month, and it's renewing itself, a brand new edition on display for us at VIR.
It is, and Chandler Hull is hanging with these 2, so the first of the Pro-Am cars, not letting these 4 Pro cars get away. Done a really solid job in the opening laps here with the 94 car, also a BMW, of course.
And Ashton Harrison, actually, in that NSX, is even quicker than Hull. She's quicker than Dinan at the moment, and I think Agakani might be the quickest of this foursome, but he's stuck in traffic right now, trying to plot his way by Dinan. We've talked a lot about this track, Calvin. Where do you make the pass?
Well, it's tough. I mean, really into the brake zones, down into the run to the roller coaster, turn 14 brake zone, and down into turn 1 of the prime opportunities, but you got to keep it together. Dinan's feeling the pressure right now. Very easy to make a little mistake through 11 and 12 there, Oak Tree Corner, but he's keeping it clean.
Crucial corner, Oak Tree Corner, because it leads to this long straightaway with a huge hill in it here, climbing to one of the highest points of elevation on the track. That's headed into that brake zone of turn 14 that Calvin was talking about. Then the quick plunge down the hill in the roller coaster. Problems here, though, for Jeff Burton, who was running 7th in Pro-Am, 12th overall, and is off the track.
Yes, turn 10, I believe, coming up through the high-speed S's, so not sure if it's a technical issue or whether he had a moment in the spin just trying to get back to the racetrack.
Jeff had a nice race earlier today, finished 2nd in the GT America powered by AWS single driver sprint race.
They won't leave him out there that long. That is a very vulnerable spot. If you go off at those sort of speeds, you're probably approaching about 140 miles an hour there as you try and woe it down up through the S's, so cannot afford to have a car there in an impact zone.
Jeff and his teammate Corey Lewis finished just off the podium in 4th in the season opener, but have not finished better than 7th since then. Does not look like today will be a day to improve that statistic. Agakani taking the slightest of lunges to the inside of Dyna, not close enough to truly threaten the BMW driver, and he tucks back in line. And while we watch this battle unfold, let's hear more from Amanda.
Well, we talked to Michael ahead of the race, and he was talking about the effort from the team putting the car back together late night. What all went into that to get car ready for today?
A couple things. First, it's all about the Turner Motorsport team. My crew did a great job sourcing the parts that we needed to put the car kind of back together. Michael had an off in practice 1. After a couple days of testing here, it was kind of like unexpected. He had an off, it damaged the car a little bit. Not that bad, but the problem was we didn't have all the parts to put Humpty back together again. We got a little bit resourceful. Some of the BMW teams had lent us some parts, so we got Michael back out there, and I'm really happy to see Michael doing so well. He had a great start, and hopefully he can keep it up there in the front.
Inspired by you, the back of the US Racetronics Mercedes says, "Eat my spaghetti." Do you have a response yet?
I don't really know what that means yet. Let's maybe I got to think about it a little bit more.
Good luck today.
Thanks to Will for the time. Full course yellow, Ziad Gondor off track. Calvin, did you get an eye on what happened?
Couldn't see. It looked like it was Oak Tree Corner, which is quite a few of the drivers this week in terms of practice and qualifying sessions here. But it's a tricky corner. Not sure if there was heavy. He's back underway, so it wasn't too bad. But again, in that corner and in that position, if a car goes off, he's going to get into you there. Just a little bit too much speed through turn 11. There's no recovering there, and it's really a question of how much impact you have with the tire wall. You're going to get to it, typically. Takes a lot of commitment around here, but there's not a lot of room for error.
We saw that corner bite a number of drivers in qualifying this morning, and it's been the case through a number of the other series that have been racing here this weekend, too. Definitely one of the challenging corners, but the iconic corner quite possibly on this track. It's called the Oak Tree Corner. New fans might be wondering why. In the old days, there was a giant oak tree that was down there on the inside of that corner that unfortunately is no longer with us, but the name still sticks, and for longtime fans of this track, the memories of that tree remain, and it's nice to know that Son of Oak Tree is growing just outside that corner right now.
Yeah, it's cool, just so iconic, and we're having a break in the action here. We had a good chance yesterday to walk around the facility with Kerrigan Smith, who kind of marshals everything here at VIR, and look at some of the track improvements. We've got 3,000 feet of guardrail that have been put in, drivers left down the front straightaway. 3 layers of the Armco barriers now pretty much been put all the way around. It was 2-layer for many years. Back straight away at that guardrail put in early 2021. The pit lane improvements, a lot more working space on the cold side of the pit wall, and infield care center, some new Geo-Brook catch fencing. So continuous building and improvement of the infrastructure here is quite remarkable. Big investment.
Massive investment. That's the thing that stands out to me. It seems like every year I come back here, Calvin, there's something noticeably different about the facilities. They're never sitting still. They're always trying to improve, whether it's the experience for the drivers or the fans at the racetrack. VIR constantly moving towards the future. They have huge plans for things to come.
They do, and certainly a lot of race teams are based here, and that's continuing to evolve as well. So really fun to see the momentum that the track has established back in the 70s, and it's old school, it's high risk, But nonetheless, the track management is now doing a wonderful job of making this track a little bit safer for the competitors, and everyone is very appreciative of that. But it's a wonderful facility. Always they embrace you being here. They look at you as loyal customers, and I think the teams and the drivers certainly embrace that.
Speaking of the history of this facility, it opened its doors originally in 1957, but closed in 1974 and lay dormant, essentially was farmland for a quarter of a century until it finally reopened in March of 2000. And since then, it has become a staple on the road racing calendar for so many championships. And you can see why with the beauty of the circuit and the quality of the racing. And speaking of which, we're back to green with Michele Beretta out in front, leading his teammate Misha Goikberg. The challenge, though, back on for third as Agakani took a peek up the inside of Michael Dinan.
He did, and this is exactly what the K-Pax group did not want. They did not want a reset because they know that Caldarelli and Pepper are going to get their hands full when all of the pros jump on board these other machines in the category. So here we see Dinan, a little wiggle there. Agakani looks to the inside, forces the issue, side by side through turn 4 and 5.
He needed no second invitation. He went for that gap, but he couldn't make it stick. Dinan fought back. Meanwhile, problems for Chandler Hull, who gets it refired, but damage at the back of his BMW.
Yeah, it looked like he may have been run into in the approach to turn 3 there, so we'll have to try and search for a replay on that one, but that takes him out of the Pro-Am lead.
What a scrap between Dinan and Agakani. Dinan just slipped that tiny bit wide, and that's all it took. Here we go. This is a look from on board with Ashton Harrison. That's Chandler Hull in front of her. Big slide.
Oh, so Hull lost it by himself, then comes across the racetrack and clips the left-hand side of the race car. Now side-by-side action for 3.
We think we're full course yellow, and this
incident.
is why. Big hit, Samantha Tan as well as JC Sada involved in this one, and immediately double yellow flag shown at start-finish. Big hit for the AF Corsa car.
Oh, that's up through the high-speed S's, so I wonder if
man.
Ashton Harrison had an issue.
Oh.
Aaron Vogel there takes evasive action. I wonder, just hypothetically, I wonder whether when Ashton got that hit, it unleashed the hood, and she suddenly came up there. It looked like her hood was up, didn't it?
I'd like to see it again. I think you're right. Good to see JC Sada out of his destroyed Ferrari.
So Chandler there on relatively cold tires just lost control of the car coming up through turn 2. So on the approach to 3, Ashton went to his right-hand side. Car came back across, brushed the left-hand side. I wonder if it dislodged one of the hood pins and whether she then had an issue up through the S's, and then the consequences of what we're looking at right now.
Medical crew on the scene. Samantha Tan still inside her ST Racing BMW. She'll be attended to here. That was a sizable impact to the back of her car. Looked like that could have involved several others too. There were drivers scrambling all over the place just trying to find a way through the carnage.
Try and piece this together, but it all started compressed field on the restart, trying to make way through turn 3 and through the snake, and as they went to the high-speed S's, something happened up ahead, and when you're running that closely together at those sort of speeds, this is what can happen.
Well, let's go on board here with Ashton Harrison, see if this tells the story. Oof.
Oh, just a bit of a stack up there. So she had lost several positions with her off-course excursion when she had to take evasive action around Chandler Hull, and just ran up on Samantha Tan, who kind of lifted quite abruptly, and then she just gets nailed there by JC Sada there when she's stationary off the road.
I don't think Sada had any clue there was a car there. You saw all the dust that had been kicked up, and I think his vision was obscured, and so no clue Samantha was sitting right there.
I'll figure out who it was that Samantha was behind, and just got off the power, got on the brakes a little bit, and I don't think Ashton was expecting it, just basically rammed into the back of her.
Looks like Scott Smithson might have got a part of this too. He's shown as being in the pits at the moment.
Could have been Luck that was up in front of Tan, possibly. Had like a lime green tail to it.
Now, in any event, there are 3 or 4 heavily damaged cars that will not see action again today. And you do wonder what effect that might have on race 2 tomorrow.
No, certainly for the BMW parts department, their bin is a little bit light.
Yeah, that's very true, because it was a fairly innocuous off for Michael Dinan earlier in the weekend, backed into the tire barrier at a not insignificant rate of speed, but it certainly wasn't anything catastrophic. But just the lack of spare parts available for the brand new BMW M4 GT3, and this is a supply chain issue that's hit so many, but it's compounded by the fact that this car is so new. It's not like there was this huge stockpile of parts going into the season to begin with, and they were unsure about how it would affect their weekend moving forward because of a shortage of parts. They were able to find what they needed, clearly. They were on track to qualify and now running in the 4th spot with Michael Dinan, but that is something the BMW teams have talked about. That's why ST Racing, in fact, missed the NOLA round, was a lack of parts. As we look here at our Race Vision powered by AWS, you can see the corner speeds at Oak Tree. While you take a look at that, let's get an update from Amanda.
Well, Conrad, we saw you give the thumbs down to the camera when we got here, and you can see it in the team. They start putting the tires away, the shoulders go down. They know what's probably ahead of them tonight. What assessment can you give on the car at this point?
It looks bad. Unfortunately, he was an innocent victim in this. Guys going side by side through the S's the first 10 minutes into the race is pretty not smart. It's a nice way to put it. Luckily, he's okay. He got out of the car under his own power. He looks very disappointed. He really enjoys this place. So we'll see what tomorrow brings in store, but it's looking pretty grim.
Thank you, Conrad.
Tough to hear that, although if there's a team that can figure it out, it's of course, that's for sure. Conrad Grunwald, fresh off a trip to the 24 Hours of Le Mans last week. One more look at this, Cal. Yep.
Yeah, it looked like Samantha had run up on the tail end of Charlie Luck. I think he had to arrest his speed a little bit and just caught out Ashton. She's probably a little bit perplexed from the incident anyway and just trying to make up some ground, just ran up on it, didn't read the traffic up ahead. So Samantha hit the brakes so that she didn't run over the top of Charlie, I think it was. He was not trying to run over the top of someone else. So just everyone trying to get back into a rhythm after a chaotic restart lap there.
That is a second-hand Ferrari, unfortunately.
It's just peeling that front underfloor back as well as they try and get up on the flatbed.
I know they have had a spare car in the past when they've had some heavy impacts. I'm not sure what the status of that is this weekend, though.
No, they had a big testing incident, didn't they?
Yes.
A few weeks ago.
Here's Ashton Harrison walking to the medical vehicle. Great to see. She appears to be all right. And now that we know she's okay, we can think about how that affects tomorrow, because, again, that was the car that was going to start on the overall pole with Mario Farnbacher.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of midnight oil being burnt tonight.
Unrelated to the incident that's brought out this yellow, Race Control has announced a warning to cars 96 and 6 for unnecessary contact. That would be Dinan and Agakani. You see it there on the screen, that we're going toe-to-toe, door-to-door. Tell you, in the bit that we saw, I did not see any contact, but we didn't get the whole picture, I don't think.
No. I think Agakani just realized he's got to try and get this car back up there. I mean, they realize that their only potential for a win here today is to stay close to those K-Pax Lamborghinis and let Spinelli do his work in the second half of this race.
Well, let's remember, going back to when this full course yellow came out, we were watching a drag race between these two down Madison Avenue, and evidently Agakani was the car ahead, because he's now scored ahead of Dinan up in third. So that pass must have just been completed in time. I suppose it's possible the stewards haven't looked at that part of it yet, and that could yet be adjusted. I don't honestly know where they were when the yellow was displayed, but it was very close. I can say that with some degree of certainty.
With all of this puts the Triazzi machines, they're leading AM and also leading Pro-Am now with Weatherill in the first position. They're going to be teaming up with Ryan Deau here this afternoon. Deau has had a ton of pace this weekend. Could be looking for their first win of the year. And for Scardina and Triazzi, I mean, they're This is big because you only score points 70% of the way in. So for Conrad Grunewald and JC Sada, they're not going to score points today, and that will really separate them in the points as they come in here tied.
Of course, that's assuming Scardina and Triarsi
Yes.
can make it to 70% of the way themselves. But they've had a nice run of form as of late, and currently hold the 5th spot overall, and of course, at this point, the de facto lead in the AM class. I would say this extended safety car period also benefits the number 3 K-Pax car, Misha Goikberg and Jordan Pepper. Goikberg, relative to Beretta, I don't think consistently would have quite the same pace. And so as we get closer to the mandatory pit stop window, Calvin, and the driver change that comes with it, I think there's a very good chance we'll see a head-to-head duel emerge between Andrea Caldarelli in the 1 car and Jordan Pepper in the 3 car.
Which we've been licking our chops about since the defending champions from last year won the opening rounds at Sonoma. Then the rule change had to be split between the 1 and the 3 machines for K-Pax Racing. Going to be great to see those two going head-to-head, but I think they're going to be feeling the heat from behind as well, with guys like Spinelli and Robbie Foley and Deau and the likes going to be chasing hard. So we've got to do a bit more cleanup here. We're only 17 minutes away from that pit stop window opening, which is between the 40 and 50-minute mark in this race. So for the K-Pax team, I think they were hoping to extend the gap at the front of this field and give their co-drivers a little bit more of a margin to work with.
Got an update on Scott Smithson. I noted earlier that he was shown as in the pits. He has dropped a lap. Evidently, a toe link was broken in the suspension, and we saw him taking evasive action over some of the curbing and bouncing his way back onto the track, and I wonder if it might have happened there. So the good news is he's been able to rejoin the race, but the bad news is he's dropped that lap. I believe he's back out of the pits at this point. That's how it's shown, at least on timing and scoring, but might have actually gone down 2 laps. We'll wait for that to totally sort itself through. But to give you an update on Scott and Brian Sellers, yes, it looks like it is just the single lap as he's hustling now to catch up with the back of the train. So 3 cars effectively eliminated in that accident. Ashton Harrison for Racer's Edge, Samantha Tan for ST Racing, and JC Sada for A, of course, and those 3 cars will take no further part in today's race, and all of them with substantial damage. And I would say it's safe to wonder about what tomorrow might look like for each of them. Just heartbreaking for each of them in turn for various reasons.
And potential winners as well, because Whitmer aboard the 38
Right.
ST Racing machine was the fastest driver yesterday in free practice. As you said, Mario Farnbacher put the car on the pole for tomorrow's race with the 93 Racer's Edge Acura. So 2 potential Pro-Am winners out for the day, and will really hurt them in the point standings as well.
Looking down the order for some other storylines, I mean, this definitely gives a chance for a better day than they might have expected for the Wright Motorsports team. Charlie Luck didn't qualify terribly well, but he's up to 3rd now. And Jan Halen, fresh off of a Le Mans start himself 1 week ago. Oh.
And they need a bounce back because they had such a strong weekend. A little bit of debris there out on the front straightaway, so it's probably fallen off one of the cars that's and Dynan runs right over it. That is so easy. If that's a bit of a carbon, could easily cut down that right front. He just saw it late.
As the 4th car in line, 5th car if you count the safety car, there wasn't much time to react when he got there. Looks like the safety car has accelerated away, so the cleanup is complete, and closing in on that pit stop window, just about 15 minutes away. Here we go, back to green flag racing as the cars enter the VP Fuels acceleration zone once again. It is Beretta accelerating away from Goikberg, but here we go. The fight is back on for 3rd. This time it's Agakani playing defense. Here comes Dynan working the outside, but Agakani to the inside of Goikberg now, and he'll grab this 2nd spot.
Dynan slices his way through there as well. Look at this, we're on board with Misha Goikberg right now. So Agakani down to the inside. Dynan was trying to outbreak them both, and he moves up to 2nd. Great run by Michael Dynan there. up on the wheel. He had to time that perfectly. You're not allowed to pass before the stripe. Now Goikberg comes back at Agakani and forces him off the road.
And Mercedes shoved wide through left hook, and that will cost him yet another spot. Doesn't look like Scardina's close enough to do anything about it, so Agakani, who was up to second momentarily, dumped back to fourth.
Bet Jordan Pepper can't believe it. Suddenly that green Lamborghini is back in the third position. That's going to make his task even more insurmountable, potentially.
How good is Michael Dinan on starts and restarts? We said this all year last year, and it's carried through. I think at the time we wondered how much of that was the M6 and its straight line speed. You don't have that excuse or ready-made explanation. I think Dinan's just got something.
He just seems to have that anger. He just wants to get going. Do you know what I mean? He just anticipates these restarts and starts very, very well. He's got the confidence in the race car. As we mentioned earlier, Jay O'Connell said he's really good when the tires are fresh. And he's willing to get up on the wheel, take the risk, and goes for it. He's just got that dynamic in his brain. He wants to make those positions early, put it all on the line.
Recent graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, Michael Dinan. A quick study behind the wheel. A champion in the GT4 ranks just a few years ago. Here was the big move first by Agakani in the Mercedes.
Yeah, I didn't think he had any idea that Dinan was looking to his flank to make a move, and then suddenly Agakani is trying to keep all together. Gets down to the inside. We're on board with Misha Goikberg again. He gets a little clip there. Agakani gets through. He can't quite get to the power, but look at the run that Dinan gets. Just beautifully timed and judged to get that second position away from Agakani.
Talking about starts and restarts, is there a special skill set for a driver when it comes to that? Is there something that you can work on? Oh, problem. Oh, this is the replay here. Sorry. Agakani going off, as we saw a few moments ago.
Yeah, we saw the argy-bargy continue there. Well, the key is to mainly get tire temperatures. We see Aaron Vogel having a quick spin here. Not been the smoothest weekend for this group as well. Trying to rebound here, get back in the game. Don't see any damage to the race car. Got to get your tires prepped, so you need to get... Oh, she gets nudged there by Chandler Hull. Hull from such a great day, grabbing the pole position and a great start. Suddenly gone a bit sideways on him. But you got to get the tires prepped, and then you got to have that mentality. Be ready to go. It's so frustrating from a team's perspective when they see that car come on the front straightaway and they've already lost 5 or 6 car lengths. It starts well early on the final lap. Just getting yourself in position, getting the tires cleaned off, getting the car in the right gear, getting ready to go. Just being up on the wheel and ready.
On board with Goikberg once again, the Canadian. Right behind Dinan down Madison Avenue. Agakani's pretty close in tow as well. You can kind of see him peeking out on the right-hand rear view mirror. Not close enough to make a move. This is the roller coaster. About 100 feet of elevation change in just a few corners.
And Beretta scampered away a little bit in the lead there aboard the #1 K-Pax machine. That may give his teammate Caldarelli the opportunity to go 5 on the bounce here. Won 4 straight so far with different teammates. Make it his 5th here with the position that they hold, but a long, long way to go, over an hour on the clock.
Yep, 30 minutes or so down, 60 minutes to go, but just 10 minutes and change away from the mandatory pit window opening up. Every team will come in within that 10-minute window. Driver change, fuel, as well as fresh Pirelli P0s. And for the Pro-Am lineups, it'll be the pros in those cars ready to go the distance.
He's just doing a good job, and again, that Mercedes looks strong there through turn 3. Agakani thinks he can stuff it down the inside. Certainly been an eventful 30 minutes for Stephen Agakani, hasn't it?
Oh my goodness.
From the drop of the green, got engulfed there with Beretta timing his start and sitting on the outside of the front row. Didn't go when Beretta did, and the second row went. Lost a few positions there.
Keeping an eye here on this, the battle for second in Pro-Am. George Kurtz in the Mercedes, Charlie Luck in the Porsche, and Charlie's co-driver is with Amanda.
Well, Jan, we were talking about the opportunity this team has to bounce back from NOLA of 50 points that you can win in a weekend like you guys did in Sonoma. You only collected 9 in New Orleans. How do you rebound?
Yeah, it's what we're doing now, running 3rd after a not so good qualifying. So you just got to keep digging. NOLA was a little, up and down weekend for us. Race 1, Charlie made a little mistake, and then race 2 we had good pace, and then got taken out by someone else. Unfortunately, it's racing, but we'll try and do better here today. We're hoping for some cooler weather tomorrow. We're struggling a little bit in the heat, but we'll see how we do.
We're trying to assess of what might have happened on track earlier with the cars that collected. We do know that Charlie was ahead of that pack. Any feedback from Charlie on the wreckage?
Yeah, nothing on our radio. We were trying to figure it out too. It looked like it happened just behind us, and I think we got lucky not to, not to have been involved in that. But yeah, no, not sure what happened.
Thank you.
It's now become a 3-car battle, second, third, and fourth all together, and Luck, who looked like he was on the attack a few moments ago, now trying to fend off the latest challenge coming from Jason Harward.
Howard had a great battle in the GT America race a little bit earlier this afternoon, so he's already had a podium run, and he's feeling in the groove. Nice start to this race for him.
Yeah, he should have this Lamborghini in traffic pretty well figured out. He was supposed to start second in that race, had to start from the pit lane, came through the GT4 field, caught a yellow, and then raced his way through the SRO 3 field to get up on the podium earlier today. So a nice solid start here for Jason Harward, who's currently 4th in Pro-Am, 9th overall, right there behind Charlie Luck in the Wright Motorsports Porsche. Then ahead of him, George Kurtz in the Riley Motorsports Mercedes. Back to the pro fight, though. Goikberg in the green Lamborghini. He's got Agakani in the Mercedes right behind him. Agakani can get close, but Calvin, I don't think he can get close enough.
Yeah, he's using his lights, he's using every trick in the book, but I don't think you're going to trip up Misha Goikberg with those sort of moves, because he has a ton of experience. He's run this Lamborghini with a different squad in a different championship last year, so he knows it well, and he loves a good battle. He's feisty.
Goikberg has the slight edge in top speed through the speed trap so far, talking 2.5 kilometers per hour, so it's not a big difference. But that's even with the Mercedes sitting there in the slipstream.
Agakani looks probing, doesn't he? I think he's got some pace there. He's just got totally out of position here in this race a couple of times, and this is where the experience kicks in. Ton of experience for his young shoulders, but even so, every race is a little bit different, dealing with a different dynamic. You know, the clock is not on your side in terms of what his teammate will have to work with. And all of the time he can see down the road that black Lamborghini stretching it away. Problems here. This is out of, and compounds the problem here. So it must have been a cut down left rear for George Kurtz. Dropped the jacks a little bit too quickly. Hopefully that thing is tightened up. And they readdress that situation. Too early for the driver change. You can see 6 minutes light on time.
And that is the Pro-Am points leading car, George Kurtz and Colin Brown, on the strength of 4 podium finishes to start the season, including a dramatic win in race 1 at NOLA Motorsports Park last month. But that will cost them dearly, because they'll need to come in and do the full service along with everyone else. And it's essentially an extra pit stop for the Riley Motorsports team.
Yeah, and that will cost them best part of 40 seconds, about 24 seconds just driving down pit lane. The loss to staying on the racetrack green, plus the service of changing that tire and the slight delay. So the wheel hop coming off Oak Tree there for Stephen Agakani, just trying to get the power down.
Meanwhile, while these three fight for second, third, and fourth, Michele Beretta now leads by 6.6 seconds. His last lap, the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race, a 1:45.9. Basically no one else doing anything sub 1:47, with the exception of Goikberg, who had a nice lap a few laps back, but everyone else basically in the 47s, 46s. And Beretta in the high 45s.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the strategy, I mean, typically with the lower graded drivers starting these races, you're going to see the driver exchange done relatively early in the pit stop window. But I think for the #1 team, with that gap now blowing up to nearly 7 seconds, I think what they'll need to do is get Beretta in as soon as they possibly can. Now, let's not forget, it's based on the clock, so sometimes the leader is not the first car to come down pit lane based on where the track position is, but I would think they'd want to get that car in, not succumb to any full course yellow situations.
Whoa, and off there for Beretta in Oak Tree, but back on, didn't lose anything other than some time, it would appear. Meanwhile, I think at the back of the shot, it looked like Agakani had gotten around Goikberg.
Wow, I was focused on timing and scoring, and suddenly all, you know what, is breaking loose here. That is not what they needed to see. Just talking about the gap that it established, suddenly some of that has been eaten into with that little off.
Now, you You look away for one moment in Fanatec GT and everything can change. We'll keep an eye on it here. This is Goikberg. And just want to see if we've got that Mercedes out in front of him. Yes, we do. So Agakani is through. He now runs third. And now it's Dynan, once again, dealing with a very hungry young Stephen Agakani.
Yeah, the 96 and the 6. See how these sets up here on board of Misha Goikberg. And there he is. He'd been thinking about it many times before. And finally just commits, I think, as the tires get a little bit longer in the tooth. That opportunity with an out-braking move down into turn 4 becomes a bit more reasonable.
But that was high commitment. You said he
was.
committed. He really, really did to slip that car up the inside and left hook. Don't usually call that one of the ideal passing zones, but when it looks like the Mercedes might have been down on power a little bit relative to the Lamborghini, you've got to get creative about where you're going to make a pass.
Yeah, and some of it is just where the sweet spot is with the gear ratio and the power delivery of these cars. It just seems that Mercedes has great torque coming off of turn 3 and kind of accelerates its competition into turn 4. And just the way you set up with a big wide entry, it looks very inviting for Agakani and others to make that move, but it's definitely high risk. Saw a shot of Ryan Deau getting ready to jump on board the number 13 machine. Weatherill doing a great job here. Holds about a 5-second lead in class over Charlie Luck.
That would be a great result for this team. Their best finish this year is just 6th. And really at NOLA in particular, they just it didn't feel like they were on the pace, but they have been this weekend. Definitely have a chance for something special. With Justin Weatherill holding that advantage and razzle dazzle set to go in the second stint of the race, Ryan Deau.
Here's Corey. Baptism of Fire did a really nice job in GT America on the streets of St. Pete. Struggled a little bit at Sonoma, but this is an excellent group, this Triazzi Competizione team. Really got some solid veteran crew and engineering staff there, and I think with Ryan Deau kind of leading the charge across the whole board there with the AM entry and the Pro Am entry, they're going to make things happen this year.
Team with a lot of history in single-make Ferrari racing, but relatively new to GT3. Ran a handful of races in Fanatec GT last year. Did a long-distance race at Sebring. I think it was a 24-hour race in a GT3 car back last fall. And they've been quick, especially in the AM class, but now seeing the Pro-Am car find some of that speed too. There has been no let-up in this three-way duel. Michael Dynan, Stephen Agakani, and the man we're on board with, Misha Goikberg.
I think with the timing, it's going to be super close for Beretta to maybe duck in. It's going to be really close to that 50-minute mark left on the board when he gets to pit lane entry, I feel.
There's not been much let up in the tires. Beretta's last lap was within 1/10 of a second of his best lap so far. And all those laps under yellow probably helped to preserve these tires a little bit. So
if you do stay out, you're going to still have good performance, it looks like.
Exactly.
There's not been a big drop-off. And typically that means that you may try and play the overcut. But again, let's not forget, here comes a big run by Goikberg. Oh, they touch at high speed. That was very, very risky there. Agakani is roughing him up.
Using the chrome horn. He's in the back of Goikberg again, and around goes the Lamborghini.
Not sure the stewards are going to like that one. I mean, hard to say from the onboard, but you'd have to feel that he was roughed up a little bit there coming down through the roller coaster.
Oh, and some damage too. That looked like probably part of the under tray.
Good news is pit lane is open.
Yep.
So this will not be an extra stop, just the timing of it and the slight delay getting back to pit lane. Hopefully no damage.
I think he's got a cut right rear tire from that contact. Yep.
Sure, the tire's down, but it's really about diffuser damage and anything else underneath that wheel well. You can cut down sensors and everything else.
Sure. Well, that all got started on Madison Avenue. I'm not sure what it was that led to those two making contact side by side, but there was no let up. Couple of times Agakani used that bumper to make sure Goikberg knew he was there, and that last time it looked like maybe just a bit too much.
Yeah, I don't know if Agakani maybe dropped a wheel coming off of Oak Tree, but certainly Goikberg had a huge run, didn't he? Gets to his flank and cleared him, and then there was that little touch just as they were overlapping there.
But you're right, this will help to nullify some of the potential loss, the fact that this happened right as the pit window opened up. Here's the replay. This is how it all got started.
Look at the run. I mean,
Yeah.
that's unusual to get a run like that. So I wonder if Aga Khan did make that little mistake. But here's the intention right now. I think this is what stewards will look at, even if they didn't see the next hit. Now we're looking at the outboard. Oh,
Tire was
the
already
tire was already down. It was
Yeah.
already down. So I'm not sure if Aga Khan got into him again, but I think it was the first hit that caused the cut down tire.
Well, let's listen. I think the sound will tell us what we need to know. Well, as we do that, I guess we'll cut away to the pits here. Pit stop for Bimmer World. Out goes now Jordan Pepper in that green Lamborghini. I do wonder how the fact that that tire went down on its own. Incident is under review, we're seeing. But I do wonder about that tire going down. My initial thought, Calvin, was that I thought the contact is what
Right.
sent him around, but now I'm not so sure.
Well, I think that was the initial hit on
Right.
the straightaway that cut down the
I
tire.
agree.
Then when they got in the roller coaster, I thought, based on that, kind of giving him a little bit of chrome horn earlier in that sector, that he turned him around. So maybe the stewards will get all of that and decipher the information, and maybe Aga Khan will not get the call on that one. Hard racing.
Very. And it carries over in some respects from what we saw at NOLA. We saw a couple different cars, the US Racetronics car and the Turner car in particular, really close to one another, making some contact there. And there was a lot of discussion in the drivers' meeting about the amount of contact we've had in recent races. And Brian Till was quite clear that they want to see that curtailed.
And you see the one car is staying out, so they're a little bit in the danger zone here. If there was suddenly a yellow and they couldn't get to pit lane without any sort of delay. 6 cars up and gone. So Spinelli, or Spaghetti as Will Tyner likes to call him, is now behind the wheel. 66 seconds is the minimum pit stop time. That was 67.6, so they left a little bit on the table there. Turner Motorsports had a nice clean one, 66.1. So Beretta's pace has been enough of a confidence factor, so now he peels in. So we're not affected at a clean racetrack. Didn't see him come across any traffic, so they felt he was in a rhythm. And they're doing a slight overcut on some of the competition here.
He's been a part of this team for 2 races. He won both of them at NOLA Motorsports Park alongside Andrea Caldarelli, who will be taking over here momentarily for the championship leading team, K-Pax Racing, the #1 car that won the title 1 year ago, into the pits.
Riley looking for his 5th win of the year.
He's been picture perfect. It's been a rare thing for him to be bested in this championship since he made his debut 1 year ago.
He and Jordan Pepper won 1 round of the championship here last year. Winwood Racing, who are not in action this weekend, took the other one. Michael Grenier and Russell Ward. Looks like a good clean stop. See Sebastian, the engineer, the pit wall. Yeah, didn't cut it too close.
Yep.
Had a nice healthy gap. They're not going to go to the fine margins there, and they got that second joker in hand for tomorrow should they need it. 66.7 second stop for K-Pax.
Okay, here comes the next 2 in class. To give you some idea, we saw the K-Pax car released and well out ahead.
Yeah, Foley and Spinelli giving chase. Their tires, even though they're in the tire warmers, these guys will have the tire pressure and everything a little bit more in the sweet spot, so they could eat into that gap a little bit, but Caldarelli's well down the road.
Now the K-Pax crew doing what they do best. They have, since live pit stops were introduced to this championship, consistently been among the best. It's a rare thing to see a K-Pax car lose a spot in the pit sequence in this championship. Now though, we're seeing some of the pros in, fresh tires on the cars, and the speeds coming up. Giacomo Altoe in the car that's 7th overall just set the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race at a 1:45.1. That is rapid.
Yeah, well, you now got the pros on board, and you're going to see some major cuts in some of these lap times as well. And typically the pros will run the sticker tires versus the qualifying tires that the starting driver would have used. So should be a little boost in performance as well.
Colin Brown just reset the fastest lap of the race, a 45.102, but he was well down the order thanks to that issue that caused an out-of-sequence pit stop just prior to the pit window opening. He's all the way down in 9th in Pro-Am, 14th overall. So as it shook out, Altoe now in the TR3 Lamborghini right here, just ahead of his old team, the K-Pax team that he drove for at Sonoma, with Jordan Pepper right behind. That gives you some idea as to how costly that was for Goikhberg and Pepper. The amount of time lost with the spin and limping back into the pits, because from running within 5-6 seconds of the lead, they're now well down the order in 8th overall and yeah, significantly behind the leader.
Yeah, well, the leader, Scardina, is not pitted yet, so that margin to the leader is going to be chopped once he hit pit lane. But certainly for Pepper, he looks like he's about almost 30 seconds back of his teammate Caldarelli, so a lot of work to do. He needs a reset, as does other drivers like Colin Brown, to get back in the game.
This duel resuming. Turner Motorsports, US Racetronics. Contact, by the way, between the US Racetronics car and the Goikhberg K-Pax Lamborghini was announced as under review.
Bad news for Altoe. They've been dinged for a pit lane speed violation. I'm not sure if that was when the car was coming in or Altoe leaving, so they're going to get a drive through. That'll cost you about 24 seconds here, and interesting that cut and paste scenario from Robbie Foley and Spinelli battling for position just as they did at NOLA, and it didn't end up happy.
No, but it did spawn a funny bumper sticker, so we have that going for us. And also a good race on our hands between these two. It's interesting, there's not much difference between these two cars in the hands of the second drivers as the first. They all look awfully similar. Lap times are similar. The way that they are measuring up against one another, pretty comparable as well. We'll keep an eye on the battle, and while we do so, let's hear from Amanda.
I'm with Stephen Agahani. And Stephen, the first thing that I want to discuss with you is about your hand injury. We discovered it before the race started. How was it during the race, and how did you get through?
The hand injury was kind of the result of my own doing. It definitely wasn't the smartest move. During qualifying, when Loris was getting in the car, one of the tire racks were coming out of the oven and falling over, and my brain told me to save it, and ended up really burning my hand. It hurts really bad, but not when you're in the car with, with all that adrenaline pumping.
You got to after this pit change, you got out of the car and you were discussing some of the on-track back and forth between you and the Lamborghini today, specifically going off at turn 4 earlier in the race. What is your assessment of what was happening with you in the Beretta car?
I think it's absolutely unfair the way the team drives, and I'm saying that out there very blatantly. Sorry, we just made a move on the Turner car, which also pushed us off track going through turn 12 on the exit, which is also unfair. But, they can do whatever they want. It is what it is. But, we're out here, obviously, our entire team. We keep the quota, and we bring the car back in one piece. We've never intend to hit anybody. We never intend to throw anyone's race away. That is not who we are as a team, not who we are as a driver. I think it's completely unfair that the K-Pax and Turner have whatever contact they want, and they don't, get anything out of it. But, it is what it is. We're just out here. We're just going to go out here and race, do what we do best. In regards to Beretta picking us off in 4A, I think that's absolutely absurd. Dive from the exit. Plenty of room, and he decides to just walk me completely out into the grass, and I have nowhere to go. So I cut it through the grass and bring it behind him. And obviously, it goes to show we have a much faster car, much faster team. We're seconds behind after going off in the dirt, and we catch up to them, pass them, and also catch up to the Turner car coming back into pit lane. It is what it is. So we're just out here going to race and see what Spinelli can do out there.
Pointed comments from young Stephen Agahani. Any thoughts, Cal?
I think he's got the K-Pax drivers mixed up. I think it was Goikberg who forced it down the inside and got him off there in turn 4. But nonetheless, I mean, he's frustrated. I mean, I think more so that they went into this race thinking, if I can grab the lead from Beretta on the opening corner, maybe we can get our first win of the year. But the way this thing is set up, they've given Caldarelli, who's, you know, mega behind the wheel of this #1 Lamborghini. He's given him the gap with a lot of work for Spinelli now, 6 seconds back to try and chase him down. But there's time on the clock. Once we start to see some clear laps here with Spinelli resting himself clear of Foley. Let's see if he's got any pace.
Word from the stewards, it will be reviewed post-race, the contact between the 3 and the 6. So that would be Agakani and Goikberg. That will be reviewed post-race. So for now, we'll turn our attention to the action on the track. And Spinelli, once he cleared Foley, he has taken off and now in hot pursuit of Andrea Caldarelli.
Yeah, and this is going to be really interesting. I mean, first sector, they literally were matched within a few hundredths. Second sector, it looks like Spinelli's a couple of tenths quicker. But you give someone like Caldarelli a 5-6 second lead, he's going to try and manage that. See what it is as they cross the stripe. It was 5.9, it's down to 5.5. So if he can maintain that sort of margin of maybe gaining half a second a lap, it'll take him 11 laps. And there's a lot more than that in terms of time left on the board. So it's not game over yet for Spinelli in terms of a chance of a win.
Yeah, he's got the bit between his teeth. He just set the Crown Strike fastest lap of the race, a 1:44.150, and was over 0.3 of a second clear of Caldarelli on that final lap, but the gap is 5.5 seconds first to second overall and in pro. Here we are looking at the leader in Pro-Am with Ryan Deau taking over for Justin Weatherill after a nice quiet opening stint while the chaos was happening around him. Justin turns the car over to Ryan Deau in perfect position.
Yeah, he gained that track position and held on to it, and Ryan Deau has laid down a 44.4 early in this stint. That's as quick as Caldarelli's run here today, and now he's got Jan Halen giving chase. They pretty much matched within 1/100th of a second their last lap, so two veterans here. Ryan Deau going to try and hang on to this Pro-Am lead as Jan Halen gives chase.
Yep, that's Halen right there, 5th overall, 2nd in class. Just did that car's fastest lap of the race so far. To inch just that little bit closer, but it is pretty even between the two, Deau and Halen. Jordan Pepper right behind in the green K-Pax car that was started by Misha Goikberg. Pepper runs 4th in pro and has been pretty quick. He's quicker than Halen at this stage, but only marginally actually. But he needs to get through the Pro-Am runners to get back to those that matter for class position, Foley, Spinelli, and Caldarelli.
Yeah, and then he needs a reset. So that cut down tire for Misha Goikberg with the argy-bargy that he'd been having with Stephen Agakani has certainly ruined his day a little bit, and ultimately it's really hurting his ability to cut into that championship lead that his ex-teammate Caldarelli currently has.
Should note Corey Lewis was shown as in the pits a few moments ago. Now he's back out on track. Not sure what that was about. And Ofrio Triarsi similarly has made a second trip down pit lane in the lone remaining AM class car, so doesn't really have an impact on their race. They just need to get to 70% race distance, and they'll be credited with the win with their lone competition out of the race in an incident that occurred in the first 30 minutes of this one that eliminated AF Corsa, ST Racing, and Racer's Edge Motorsports. Big accident earlier in this race, in case you missed it, taking out those 3 cars and had some trickle-down effects on others as well. But this here is the man racing on home soil. I guess I should say the son-in-law of the man racing on home soil, Charlie Luck from Richmond, Virginia. And now his son-in-law, Jan Halen, piloting the Wright Motorsports Porsche, and running right now in 2nd in class.
Pepper's a little bit quicker than Halen, and it's going to be interesting to see how Halen handles this. He wants to try and catch Deau for their 3rd class win of the year, rebounding, as we discussed, from a disappointing NOLA weekend. Just depends how quickly Pepper gets there. A lot of time on the board. He may just let him go and then just try and follow him and draft up to Ryan Deau with a chance of getting that Pro-Am victory.
Well, there was some conversation in the drivers' meeting about how out-of-class cars should treat one another, especially if there's a lap separating them. And I think these two cars, and well, two of these three cars were in the midst of that conversation with Deau and Pepper having some thoughts on the subject.
Yes, I think there were some words discussed between the two drivers after the drivers' meeting. And it's all about respect and understanding. It's tit for tat. You do it to one, you may get a response in a following event, even if it's later in the year, and it can come at a critical moment too. Critical moment in a championship or a particular race. So you need to work together, and but it's also hard. You know, if you're just right on the lap down, but with a chance to try and get by that leader and get back on that lead lap, you can't afford to just give it up because someone else is close to you. So there's an interesting dynamic that is explored during those moments.
Well, it's been incremental, but it's been also undeniable. Laura Spinelli is closing the gap on Andrea Caldarelli. It was another couple tenths of a second the last time around. A lead that was up around 6 seconds just a few laps ago. It now sits at 4.9 seconds. So Spinelli slowly but surely reeling him in, but only 33 minutes to go.
Yeah, a little bit of national pride here as well at stake. The two Italians going to be going at it, and Caldarelli has such a name in motorsports. You know, for anyone who's following Spinelli's career, if he can catch someone like Caldarelli and bring it home, that's a big feather in his cap.
This is a driver with a nice resume himself. A lot of single-make Lamborghini racing and championships in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Won the Pro-Am class title in Super Trofeo Europe in 2015. Won the Pro class title in Europe in 2017. 2018 was his breakout year because he won the World Final in Pro-Am at Vallelunga. He won the European Pro-Am Championship, and he won the North American Pro-Am Championship. And you add it up, and it's something like 15 wins in the two Continental Series, plus the win at the World Final. And that really put him on the map with Lamborghini. He's done some GT racing with Lamborghini, some as well with the Mercedes platform. And he and Stephen Agakani have been very quick, albeit not with the consistency they're looking for this season.
And Spinelli's absolutely flying, continuing to almost match his fastest lap of the race. And that gap is right around 4 seconds. We now see Pepper has caught Jan Halen. I think Jan needs to think about this one, just let him go. This is not for class position. Don't want to drop any lap time or lose more of a gap to Ryan Deau up ahead of him, but nonetheless, maybe when he gets to that back straightaway, let this Lamborghini go and then just try and draft up to Ryan Deau and go back to work for the class win here today.
Is there a place on the track that's most advantageous if you were going to let someone through?
Down this straightaway. Just breathe the throttle momentarily and tuck back in. You don't want to do it through a corner, get out in the marbles or anything like that, so he may just suddenly point in when he gets to this straightaway, but I'm not inside his helmet right now. He may do something totally different and want to fight him a little bit longer.
Third car in line is Corey Lewis. He, though, is a lap down, running back in 10th. They had that drive-through penalty, I believe it was. They certainly made an extra trip down the pit lane. Here we go on board with Pepper. We'll see if Halen lets him go through or not. Again, not for class position.
That's perfect.
Yep.
Just breathed it right there into the brake zone. Lost the minimal amount of time there and just go back to work. And you can see Deau has got pace. He's gapped this little group here by now 6 seconds. So Triazzi and Ryan Deau and company are looking very strong here today for that Pro-Am win.
And I'll tell you what, Spinelli has got even closer now, 3.3 seconds between first and second overall. That basically is half the gap that we saw 4 laps ago.
Yeah, he's just taking huge chunks out of Caldarelli's lead right now. I think this is just really the performance of these cars here at VIR. The Mercedes seems to be stronger. It's shown that all week long, and it's showing it now in race conditions. Yes, they got the grid position, they got the track position, but Spinelli is running laps continuously in the low 144 range. 141, 144.1 is his fastest. He just ran another 44.2, so he's just taking huge chunks out of Caldarelli's lead right now.
Catching him as the old adage goes.
Isn't off.
Oh,
he's off.
That is Spinelli.
Oh my goodness. That is the edge. High consequences here. If you make a mistake, that's oak tree. This team just can't quite get it there, it seems. Is there any damage to the left front of that Mercedes? Wow.
Let's take a look. He was closing in.
He's pushing in, just comes in there a little bit deep. There's no turning back from that one, literally. Probably not a ton of damage. Just depends if the wheel is outside of the wheel. Well, typically you're turning, so it may protect it a little bit. You can see that the bodywork is caved in a little bit. May affect the downforce some. I'm sure he lost any track position. I'm not sure where Foley is and how much of a delay there. Yeah, he did lose track position. That's Pepper behind it, so I think Foley and Deau has gone by.
The thing I was wondering about was the clearance in the wheel well vis-a-vis the tire. I don't see any smoke, so I think they might have gotten away with something there.
And that is such a tricky corner. You have to absolutely nail it, hit your marks perfectly, the rolling speed. If you just carry a mile or two extra speed into that corner, suddenly that left front just slips away from you, and as you're trying to turn the car more and more, you're at the wrong trajectory, and it never comes back to you.
Well, speaking of the cars that got through, Foley was one, but Ryan Deau did too, and that doesn't matter from a class position point of view, but it is one extra car now that Spinelli would have to get through if he was going to get up to Foley or to Caldarelli, although that seems pretty unlikely at this stage. Andrea now with a 10.2 second lead over Robbie Foley. And looking back at what K-Pax has done over the last year and a half, they have had their races where they have outright dominated, there's no question. But how many times have we seen them keep the level head, not make the mistake, and on a day, this isn't the best example of this, but on days which they look like they might be totally lost, all of a sudden the end of the race comes and here they are at the top again.
Well, they don't panic. You talk to the team, it's like, what's going on? You're middle of the timesheets. Yeah, well, this isn't right. This isn't right. We're working on it. We're changing the setup tonight. We changed the motor on the 3-car earlier in the week. They said the 1 car did not have the power and the straightaway speed they were looking for, so they were searching with this car, did a hardship lap this morning. So they've got so much experience. You can't afford to panic. And even on a day, maybe they got out of track position, they're going to finish 3rd, 4th. If that's all you can take on the day, take it. Go home with that, regroup, and come back stronger at the next one.
Well, in part, it's because of all the chaos in this race, but there are some really good stories shaping up with 27 minutes to go. You look down the order a little bit, and right now, Dirk Muller is running in 3rd in Pro-Am for DXDT Racing. That car started all the way back in 13th with David Askew. They have not had a good season so far. A podium would be huge for them. Madison Snow runs 5th in Pro-Am right now in the car started by Jason Harward. They started last today and are in a position for perhaps a top 5, maybe something more in Pro-Am as they run. And right behind him, Drew Stavely, Ian Lacey Racing, this little team out of Utah that made the big step to GT3 last year. By their own admission, never quite figured it out. They felt like in testing between NOLA and here that they found something. Then they put Roman DeAngelis in the car for a couple of days of testing here at VIR just to give them a little bit of direction and feedback. And now they've had some really strong runs throughout the course of this weekend, and Drew Stavely is in a position quite possibly to bring that car home 6th, which I think would be their best GT3 finish today. So lots of great stories up and down the field, and another one would be Triarsi Competizione. Ryan Deau and Justin Weatherill, they lead in Pro-Am, Amanda.
From the stint that you had, and Justin, we were just talking off camera about the development that you have had here in your rookie season at SRO America. Seeing your car in the top spot, how satisfying is that at this point?
Oh, it's a dream come true, like starting in the back and then moving to the middle, and now to be able to just put our heads down as a team. The crew's done a great job putting their heads down. As a drivers, we've been doubling down and doing a bunch of work, and it feels really good to see it pay off.
I saw you in another series. You made the leap to come racing here. How challenging is it taking it from that level into the difficulty of racing in SR America?
Yeah, it's been a lot more challenging, but that just makes moments like this so much more worth it. And my wife and kids are home sick this week, so they were supposed to be up here and they're not, so it just feels great to be able to do this and make it worth it.
Congratulations.
It's been a good run here so far for Justin, a former Ferrari Challenge class champion, but new to GT3 racing this year, and he's doing what so many have done. Jason Harward last year, I think, is a great example, running 2 series, GT America powered by AWS, as well as Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS. to get that extra track time in the same car, and I think that helps with that learning curve. Side by side here, that is Michael Cooper fighting with Bill Auberlen, and Auberlen will grab P7. Looks like Colin Brown would like to take P8 while he's at it.
Yeah, this is a feisty little battle between three top-notch North American sports car aces right now, not giving an inch. Brown around the outside. Can he tuck it to the inside? Yes, he does. That was awesome racing. Michael didn't want to give up, just got a little bit out of position when Auberlen forced his way through.
It's funny, I was on the track walk this weekend, and I was in that section of the track with Michael Cooper, and he told me you do not want to be on the outside of the second portion of left hook, turn 4, because it gets so slippery, and you saw him concede that spot so he wouldn't be in a compromised position, just as he told me he would, funnily enough, on Thursday night.
Yeah, and I think his teammate Aaron Vogel got caught out there in the practice day with a little mistake coming out of that sector of the racetrack. So yeah, it's all about putting on the line. We saw with Spinelli, we're seeing it with other drivers. This racetrack, you've got to be on that fine edge. You've got to be committed to get the lap time out of it. But if you step over that edge, typically this racetrack is going to jump up and grab you.
Well, these are two good recovery drives underway here. Bill Auberlen, we saw Chandler Hull have his issues early on, the spin and a little bit of contact as well with Ashton Harrison. That was just before the big accident, actually, a lap or two later, if memory serves. And then Colin Brown, this car with George Kurtz driving, had what looked like possibly a tire puncture or something to that effect. They had to come to the pit lane for an unscheduled pit stop, and now just trying to work their way back forward. It's especially costly, though, for the CrowdStrike Mercedes here, because this was the points leader in Pro-Am entering the weekend, and the margin was very, very small. This will be costly for them.
It really will, and those are just the brakes. I mean, George Kurtz had kept it clean, had the car up in the top 3. There's some debris that had been flying around the racetrack with the contact that we'd seen. We saw Michael Dynel actually run over a little bit, and don't think there's any issues with his right front tire, but maybe there's a little piece of shrapnel or something out there that cut down the tire for George Kurtz, and that's cost him the track position. Definitely one of the favorites for a win here. They've had success here in the past. George won the GT America race earlier this afternoon in a similar race car, so they had high hopes coming in.
Talking about the Pro-Am points situation, the top 2 have both had issues in this race. We talked just a moment ago about Kurtz and Brown, and they're running down the order. Second place in points was Racer's Edge with Harrison and Farnbacher. Well, they're not going to score any points in this one. So Charlie Luck and Jan Halen, after a pretty disappointing NOLA by their standards. Who's this? Is this Spinelli in the pit lane?
Don't see anything on the message board in terms of a penalty, so coming in to change that right rear, so.
Yep. Boy, it goes from bad to worse for them.
Yeah, and topping up with fuel, that's strange. Unless they didn't get it connected correctly during their pit stop. Now a delay. Just a team that's just got to be so frustrated, been knocking on the door for victory, and it's all gone south on them again today.
Well, this delay really won't cost them any because they were at the back of the pro field anyway. And unlike in years past, where the de facto pro class was an overall class, and so where you finished in the overall order determined your points. For instance, if you were 10th overall, even if you were the 4th best pro car, you still scored 10th place points. That's not the case anymore. That changed a few years ago, so they're still in a position, as long as they make it 70% of the race distance, to score 4th place pro points. So that does help a little bit to lessen the damage here. Yeah. But yeah, this is a day that started off so promising and does not look like it's going to end with the result they were hoping for.
I find the refueling a little bit baffling, unless they felt they were a little bit tight on it in terms of just a safety margin there. Came in for the tire anyway, but typically you would have put enough fuel on board during the mandatory pit stop window to get to the finish, unless they felt there might have been a slight refueling issue and just want to make sure. But it seems like there's a tire issue that caused the main reason for coming down pit lane.
Right. Well, quickly doubling back to the Pro-Am point situation we were discussing. As it stands, it looks like Wright would move into a tie for the points lead with Riley, but there's still some time for that to change. So that would be Halen and Luck tying with Brown and Kurtz.
Brown's got his sights set on Orble, and he's only half a second back. So if they're tied right now, that would certainly give them the lead potentially.
It would help them keep the lead effectively is what it would do. So curious what this would do then for Ryan Deau and company. They've not had the best start to the year. They were 10th in points, 55 points back. I think this certainly elevates them should they be able to hold on. Whoa!
Big ride there for Jordan Pepper.
I don't think this car is totally right because as he came on, I could see that diffuser bouncing underneath.
Look at the rear of the car.
Yeah,
It's got some damage there with the off, and Misha Goldberg going through the roller coaster. So.
And that's where you want. See that?
Oh,
do you see that diffuser doing that? That can't help you in the high-speed section. Here we go on board and buckle up.
Yeah, you're just losing downforce. It's probably taking it away, giving it to you, taking it away again. So he's hanging on to it. He's giving it everything, but Foley's so far down the road, I would just be settling in here and making sure you don't throw it at the fence. But he's also at the point in the race you're going to score points anyway. But certainly third is better than fourth with Spinelli back out there.
Yeah, exactly right. Wow. This is going to be a day that the bulk of the grid is going to need to regroup from. I don't know what 4 or 5 cars might have got through this thing unscathed to this point, and we still have 18 minutes to go. This is a look at the U.S. Racetronics team, I think. Yeah, this is the tire that forced Spinelli to the pits.
Yeah, they obviously feel they had a leak, looking for a cut.
If you remember, we talked about the color coding issue earlier for this team. So you can see on the wheel nut and then just above the wheel nut, it was painted blue. And this is what the team was explaining to us, was their method to prevent an issue from happening like it happened at NOLA again, where the wrong side of the car wheel, or front to back even, ends up in the wrong spot. So that was what they were discussing with us, blue for one side of the car and red for the other side of the car.
I think it's blue for right side, pink for the left side, and also the front and rear tires are not that dissimilar, so it's very easy to pick up the wrong one. So they put an extra marking on the wheel to determine front and rear, and that's essentially what happened. The Mercedes runs a situation where the wheel nuts left-hand thread on the left-hand side and right-hand thread on the right-hand side. So under braking, they're continuing to tighten up. We went through a rash of wheels coming loose a few years ago in some of the championships, and it was determined that under braking, the wheel nuts were loosening themselves off with the force and directional force, centrifugal force of the wheel in the brake zone. So some of the manufacturers have elected to do this. But it does mean you can't switch sides with one wheel to the other or one nut to the other.
This is all for position, by the way, with just under 17 minutes to go. Drew Stavely and the Ian Lacey Racing Aston Martin, he runs in 6th, as we chronicled earlier. Bill Oberlin and Colin Brown have caught him now through Oak Tree, headed towards the back straightaway. But a nice run here for Stavely. Very good exit to Oak Tree, and he opens up a gap, and now looks like Bill Oberlin has his hands full. Colin Brown is right there in the slipstream.
He's going to be giving it everything here. This could be a spirited little battle here for the last 15, 16 minutes of this race. Oberlin, so much history with the BMW brand, winningest sports car driver in North America. Continues to add to that record on a continual basis. Seems to score victories 2 or 3 every single year at this level.
Father Time seems to have forgotten about Bill Oberlin. People talk about drivers slowing down with age, and you see no let up from Bill whatsoever.
You don't. He just continues to dig deep. He's got that passion. He works at every element of his game. Went away in the off season, lost about 15 pounds, I think. And you looked at Bill last year. He's always been fit as a rat catcher's dog. And yet, how do you lose 15 pounds? He looked like there was something wrong with him, but he just said, you know what? That's an edge. 15 pounds off this race car makes it faster.
Jan Halen got around Jordan Pepper on that last lap, not for class position, but again, going to show, doesn't look like that car for Pepper is all that stable. This, though, is that story we touched on a few moments ago. Dirk Muller driving this year for the first time for DXDT Racing, alongside team owner David Askew, having their best day of the year.
Yeah, and this is a team that won here last year, but was not with David Askew or even George Kurtz, who were the regular season drivers. It was Michael Cooper and Aaron Vogel who ran a full season effort with them last year. One race won here, so DXDT now on somewhat home turf, right? This is their most locally based team to their new premises. And they're looking to rebound. Hasn't been the strongest start to the year. Got Brian Sellers on board. Ryan Deau left the squad, and his position was filled with Dirk Mueller. So much experience at this level. Has had a long association with Mercedes. Most recently in North America was part of a 4-year program with Chip Ganassi Racing in the Ford GT program. Won some of the most iconic races globally, including Le Mans. And he loves being back on North American soil, one of the best GT races out there.
Crucially, that Ford GT program was linked with Multimatic. Who else has a relationship with Multimatic? Well, that would be Mercedes-AMG. So connect the dots, and here you go. Dirk Mueller in a Mercedes-AMG here at VIR, giving this car, as I said, its best ride of the season. Their best finish so far is 6th. That was the only race they've scored points in, to give you an idea of how difficult it's been. Back to this battle, though. Hammer and tong, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Wow, that was close there, coming off of turn 1. Orbelin's nose was so close to the tail end of Drew Stavely, and now he has to get defensive. He gets hit. Tries to not leave that gap to the inside. I'm not sure a gap existed, but Colin Brown drove through anyway. He's not going to be happy with that one.
Someone's going to need to find his hat. Bill Auberlen not pleased, I suspect. That was a fight for position, and he has definitely dropped down a few more spots. This is another team, too, that I think has shown flashes of promise this year in this big step up to GT3, but hasn't totally put it all together just yet. But I think Auberlen and Hull are going to be something to keep an eye on as we watch this replay.
Yeah, let's take a look here. So it seems like the Mercedes, we saw at Aga Khan, it seems to just be in their sweet spot torque-wise coming off that corner. And, you know, he really wasn't alongside there. I mean, you could tell that the language that he was going to go for, Bill didn't want to give it to him. So I'd put it 70% on Colin's shoulders, a little bit on Bill's as well in terms of closing the door a little bit.
3 podiums this season for Bimmerworld, still looking for that first win. Well, not going to happen today. What do you have in the pits, Amanda?
Up for his stint here, and on that, you talked about his hat. Well, on his helmet, on the back of it, he has the quote, "Take it to the limit," and it's dedicated to his dad, Gerd Oberlin. But I talked to Bill yesterday about his joy of racing in Fanatec GT, and you talk about the tenure and the resume that you guys went through. He said at this point in his career, he really just loves developing talent, and working alongside Chandler has been an absolute joy for him. But then he says, I like suiting up and racing against my contemporaries like Brian Sellers and Mueller and Robbie Foley. So it's neat to impressive that we have names like Bill Auberlen here in our paddock, but to see his joy in it as well was really neat to hear.
Well, Brown around Drew Stavely there for position. Thank you, Amanda. That is for the 6th spot, at least for now. We'll see what the stewards think. That incident under review. Interesting, though, in Amanda's report that Bill Auberlen's talking about his contemporaries, and he lists Robbie Foley, who was his young protege for a time, and now, yes, they still race together over at IMSA, but here they are going head-to-head as pros and Pro-Am lineups, and it's kind of fun watching the master take on the student.
It's one of those deals. How do they say it? Well, Robbie knows I taught him everything he knows, but I didn't teach him everything that I know. So, but yeah, Robbie's just done a tremendous job in soaking it up like a sponge in terms of the information and the knowledge that Bill Auberlen has over the last few seasons, putting it to good use here. Running 2nd on the road, still 12 seconds back at Caldarelli. Lap times very, very similar, but Caldarelli got that gap after the round of pit stops here today. But Colin Brown made that move into turn 4. It just seems like Mercedes is in its sweet spot, right? Aga Khan kept looking at now Brown is in pit lane again. That is a call for incident responsibility with that moment with Bill Auberlen. So that's how the stewards saw it. They leaned more towards Colin Brown being responsible for that move.
It's not going to help Bill Auberlen out a whole lot. We'll see if Bill can get by Colin here. It's going to be close, I think.
I think he will. Yeah, you should. He's about 17 seconds behind. You lose about 24 coming down pit lane, so that will give him the position back. But it's put Auberlen a long way back of Stavely, and it's allowed Cooper to get by them at the same time. Here's another look at it. Yeah, it was just late. I mean, Bill basically, we talk about language. Okay, Colin said, I'm going to go for it. Bill said, no, you're not going to have it. And Colin just wasn't willing to back out of the situation.
Under 10 minutes to go. Andrea Caldarelli leading by 13.5 seconds. Robbie Foley second. Ryan Deau leading in Pro-Am. This car, though, driven by Jordan Pepper, Amanda.
Yeah, and I'm standing by with his teammate Misha Goikberg, and we talked to Stephen Agakani earlier after he got out of the car, but Misha, I just wanted to give you a chance to react to the stint that you guys had as well. Stephen had choice words for it, found it unfair, some of the driving. What do you feel happened between the two cars?
Well, we'll let the stewards decide after the race. I mean, it's unfortunate. I don't think where we are represents where our pace was, so it's never good to be behind. But yeah, we touched a number of times, and he made a big mistake, exit of 11, and I had a killer run. At that point, I was committed. He drove me all the way to the grass. I went into the grass, and at some point, you have to give it up when you make a mistake like that. But that's racing. Yeah, we'll keep racing like that the whole year.
This is your third race alongside Jordan Pepper. Have you learned anything from that you've met with him?
No, Jordan is a really cool guy. He knows the car and the team very well, and yeah, we're enjoying our time as teammates together. He's obviously very quick, so I'm just loving this opportunity and having lots of fun.
Thank you, Misha.
That was very circumspect, I think, from Misha Goikberg.
Nicely handled. Been easy to go on the offense there, but live to fight another day. As he said, let the stewards look at it. They'll make the determination. I didn't really, the moment in turn 4, yeah, that was a good hard racing, but I didn't really see anything that Misha did in terms of where the contact happened and the cut down tire for him. I mean, as he said, we didn't see it, but we alluded to it maybe that Stephen had a moment coming out of Oak Tree. Lost some ground, and I think Stephen was just frustrated. I mean, the car was not in the track position it deserved to be in on pace, but circumstantially he was back there and made a little error and didn't want to give up that track position right before the pit stop and give his teammate a harder task once he got on board.
Well, it made for compelling television, we could say that much. With 7.5 minutes to go, Andrea Caldarelli out in front, looking further back here and catching up with the Laura Spinelli-driven car that Agakani started, and continuing just to turn laps nice and consistent. A nice quiet day for Triarsi Competizione. They're in store for a double win, both Pro-Am and Am within their grasp.
Yeah, and I always felt looking at that group together when I saw at St. Petersburg the amount of talent they had under their awning when they ran the GT America race there. Wow, with this Ferrari and this potential in pace, this could be a really strong combination. It's taken a few rounds, but they're finally showcasing it here today in 2 classes.
And the qualifying effort from Charlie Scardina to start 4th overall. That was remarkable this morning, and it's not the first time we've seen bursts of pace from him like that.
Yeah, we saw at Sebring when they made their debut last year, right, in the first race, and they had that big incident starting race 2 there, but showed their intention, showed their potential, and regrouped over the off-season and have come back with a very, very strong combination of drivers and team personnel.
And the second part of the equation, the driver in the car now, Onofrio Triarsi, it seems like his pace relative to Charlie is getting better week in and week out as he learns this GT3 car. And it's been great to have that 2-car battle in the AM class after AF Corsa pretty much ran unopposed with a few exceptions last year. And it seemed like early in the season that they kind of kept fighting each other late in the race, which made for some compelling racing. But unfortunately, it was an early exit for the AF Corsa teammates, JC Sada and Conrad Grunwald. They were caught up in that big accident in the first 30 minutes of race 1 of the weekend here today.
How much sweeter than this, driving one of these machines around this awesome racetrack, 3¼ miles of heaven. It's just beautiful. The undulation, the elevation change, plunging down the hill here. It's not quite from the corkscrew down to the final corner at Laguna, but it's pretty close.
Not far off. I think it's between 90 and 100 feet of elevation change through the roller coaster section. Turns 14, 15, 16A, 16B, and then Hogpen turns 17 out onto the front straightaway. It's a big dive down the track. Then you run down the pit straight, back to the horseshoe, turn 1.
Tell you what, Spinelli's on the move and he's on the charge for a reason. There's only 4 minutes left, but Pepper seems like he's lost a ton of pace here in the last couple of laps. I think that rear diffuser coming loose. He's now running lap times consistently 149s. Spinelli's running 145s. So time might not be on his side. He's about 20-ish seconds back. But he's probably been told, like, Jordan Pepper is struggling here. Do what you can. There's still a chance of third in class.
That is the carrot dangling in front of Loris Spinelli, who at one time was running down Andrea Caldarelli for the lead. Lest we forget, even with all the issues, all the contact, the damage to the car from the opening stint, Spinelli was chopping into that lead for the overall lead until he dropped a wheel there in Oak Tree and ended up in the tire bundles.
I think right now, last time across the stripe, he was 24 seconds back. He's running lap times about 4 to 5 seconds faster. See that little flutter on the hood? We've seen that with several of the Mercedes here this weekend at high speed. They touching about 160 miles an hour into the brake zone there for the roller coaster.
Now catching Drew Stavely, who's up to 5th at the moment in Pro-Am. This again, not for class position here. 3.5 minutes to go, but this is important for Spinelli. If there's any chance to get to Jordan Pepper, and crucially, that means there should be no traffic ahead of Spinelli from here on out.
Yeah, it's now 18 seconds, so he took 6 seconds out of that gap to Pepper on that one lap alone. But looking at the clock, not much time to make it happen, so maybe Pepper's just managing that.
Yep, this is Pepper here in a damaged car. This car had to be repaired earlier in the weekend due to an accident in testing. You can see the slightly off, or more than slightly off, mismatched front bodywork. This car should be all green.
Jordan is super sensitive to a race car as well. I remember they gave up a win last year when he felt a tire issue at Coda and had to give up the win to the sister machine. So he knows how to nurse a wounded car back to the finish. Massive vibration from the onboard camera. You'd think I'd be shaking it to pieces, but certainly tails away. We saw some shots of that diffuser doing its own thing. Like the Mercedes F1 car.
Curious to hear Jordan's thoughts on how comfortable or otherwise his ride might have been throughout the day today. Not going to be what he hoped for when this race started. Still a chance to get on the podium, though, in the Pro class. Coming around to complete his 45th lap of VIR with under 2 minutes to go. No challenge to his sister car, Andrea Caldarelli, doing what Andrea Caldarelli seems to always do when he shows up in North America. And it seemed like he showed up to the big races, the big endurance races, and he won those and rolled right into this championship and looked right at home instantly, too.
He did. And he's not always spectacular. He's just supremely efficient, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Just a great thinker. Talking to the team at the last round of the championship at NOLA, I was talking to Tommy Saddle, and I said, what's the difference between Jordan and Andrea? He said, well, they're so good, both of them. He said, maybe on his day, maybe Jordan, with his youth and exuberance, may have a slightly faster lap time by a tick, but he said, over the long haul, Andrea still displays that experience level that brings home the prizes.
He's not an old man by any stretch of the imagination, just 32 years of age. Andrea Caldarelli from Pescara in Italy, but a seasoned veteran in these GT3 cars for Lamborghini on his final lap at VIR. Dating back to last year, Calvin, this would be his 9th consecutive overall win in the championship. They won the final 4 last year. They've won the first 4 this year, looking to make it 5 straight to open the 2022 campaign.
Just incredible, just really remarkable. I mean, the competition level is up, and the Lamborghini is not always the fastest. There's certainly a strong race car, but not always the fastest car on the day, but they're continuing to execute and do their job.
Give a call, too, to his teammate, Michele Beretta, who qualified this car on pole. That was crucial today with so much chaos mid-pack. That's where they're starting tomorrow. And if they had started there today, who knows what the result might have been. Instead, they were out in front cleaning green.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if he can extend that streak tomorrow. Got a lot of work to do from his grid position.
Well, for now, he just has a few more corners to negotiate. K-Pax Racing looking to stay perfect in 2022. How about 5 straight wins to open the season for Andrea Caldarelli in the #1 car? He wins at VIR. And for his teammate Michele Beretta, a 3rd straight win since joining the team in round 3 of the championship. Now to the Pro-Am battle, Ryan Deau and Justin Weatherill. It's been a slow start to the season, but now starting to fulfill some of the promise we saw in this lineup when it was announced. Their previous best finish this season was 6th. How will a win taste? I suspect pretty darn good. Here comes Ryan Deau. He and Justin Weatherill win in Pro-Am for Triarsi Competizione in race 1 of the weekend at VIR. Just behind, Jan Halen comes home in 2nd. Good points haul for Wright Motorsports. Dirk Moeller crosses the line. First podium of the year for Dirk and his co-driver, David Askew. And now the final run to the checkers here. Looks like Michael Cooper did get by Drew Stavely. That was for 5th.
It's on this lap.
Yep.
Last lap of the race, he's made that move. So great rebound for this team from Real Time Racing. Getting a top 5 after a tough start to the week.
Yeah, difficult weekend for Michael Cooper and Aaron Vogel, who won their class here 1 year ago and just have not been at the pointy end throughout the course of this weekend. Here, a 5th place will be a hard-won result for them. Similar story for Drew Stavely and Frank Gannett. But in the AM class, Triarsi Competizione wins race 1 of the weekend, their 3rd consecutive win for Onofrio Triarsi and Charlie Scardina.
And at the flag, Spinelli was only 2.5 seconds back of Pepper for 3rd in Pro. That was tight. Another lap or 2 could have been a change of position there with Pepper trying to get that wounded car to the flag.
Good eye. You were on top of that from the get-go. Comes up about 1 lap short, it looks like, for Spinelli. He'll have to settle for a 4th in US Racetronics after again showing great pace. Will have a tough night of sleep, I suspect, ahead of race 2 of the weekend tomorrow, looking to put all that behind them.
Yeah, they got another shot at it. Certainly these double-header weekends gives you that reprieve, but just got to bring it home. Just got to sharpen everything up that little bit. Curious to know what happened with that refueling issue as well. Maybe even if they'd had a clean run, that could have been an even bigger heartbreak if they were light on fuel.
Yeah, Amanda, as we see, Spinelli did set the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race. Amanda did send us a message that they felt like they would be short on fuel had they not had that issue, and they decided to top it up. That does beg a few questions. But I suppose if you're going to have some issues, you want them just all on the same day, put them behind you, and go into tomorrow where, keep in mind, they qualified on the outside of the front row, the top spot in class, and depending on the damage to the Racer's Edge car, they might inherit the overall pole tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a lot of work being done in the paddock as we speak, and certainly tonight to get some of those cars ready and in ship shape for tomorrow afternoon's race.
Yes, indeed. I can't wait to hear from Ryan Deau. This has been a long-awaited win in this championship. He and David Askew paired up for so many years together, had some good runs, but now a new team, new car, new teammate and co-driver in Justin Weatherill, who he's been coaching for some time now, paired up together, and they break through for their first win as a tandem. Really cool stuff. Also bringing it home in a good position in the overall running order on the overall podium to finish 3rd on the road.
Yeah, and a great run for Turner Motorsport. I mean, a team that had that DNF at NOLA have shown pace all season long with this new BMW M4, but for those guys to get 2nd overall and 2nd in Pro Class, really strong run. Michael Dinan bouncing back for that slight off, but had heavy consequences yesterday morning. Team did a great job and a great run for he and Robbie.
Provisional results. Again, a couple of those incidents were going to be reviewed post-race, so check back with us tomorrow for race 2, and we'll give you an update on what transpires in the steward's office overnight. But these are the results as they are listed now provisionally from race control. And again, the win to K-Pax Racing. They have been nothing but perfect to get the season started. There's Michele Beretta coming in, exchanging congratulations with, that probably is Giacomo Altoe there.
And I tell you what, it could be on Beretta's shoulders tomorrow to get another win for Caldarelli, because he's going to be a little bit deeper in the pack, and maybe that second stint tomorrow where this number 1 car is to try and get the lead. Just thinking forward here.
My mistake. That was Andrea Caldarelli. Don't recognize that helmet, but climbing out of the number 1 car that is victorious once again, Caldarelli and Beretta, who had that nice, solid start to the race. Didn't get a ton of green flag running, admittedly, with the lengthy yellow that we had during that first stint, but did what he needed to do, turned it over to Caldarelli, and he did the rest. Amanda?
Well, with Michele Beretta first, and you kicked off this stint, and you said that you raced VIR back in 2017, but jumping back in the saddle here, is there anything of past experience that you could use here to prepare at VIR?
Well, it was a long time ago, 5 years ago, so not really. I mean, I like this track. We did GT3. Our car felt very good since the test day, and my first stint was not so difficult, let's say, but I think the safety car destroyed a little bit the pace and was difficult to get the pace back with a little bit of pickup on the tires, but no mistakes again, and Andrea did a super drive at the end. Yeah, let's see, for tomorrow it's going to be a little bit more tricky.
3 wins in a row for you alongside Andrea Caldarelli. I think Ryan said that you have 9 wins in a row in Fanatec GT. You've definitely swept the season so far this year. How do you make it look so easy?
It's not easy. This weekend was not easy. Yeah, I mean, the car was pretty good, to be honest, but we are struggling a little bit with speed, and like we're having some issue that we still didn't figure it out from Wednesday. But I mean, I'm very happy that 9 wins in a row, or whatever, not in a row, but yeah, 9 wins. It's good. I didn't even know that. Tomorrow we need to try to make the 10th.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Yep, 9 in a row going back to last year. Hard to believe, even for Andrea Caldarelli. He knows how hard these things are to win.
Well, we keep saying they're vulnerable today, but we
Right.
keep seeing the same car in victory lane.
No, you're right about that. And the rest of the field collectively scratching their heads. What do we need to do? Even within the K-Pax camp, and this is kind of similar to what we saw last year, where one half of the garage had the edge.
Well, Jordan Pepper has to make something happen if he's going to catch Caldarelli for this Drivers' Championship. They're split after starting the championship season together. Tomorrow may be his opportunity. He's ahead of him on the grid just a little bit. So he needs to have a solid stint, let Misha Goldberg bring it home. But Beretta's going to be tough to beat as well when he gets behind the wheel.
More Victory Lane interviews with Amanda.
Well, it is the first win as teammates for this duo, but their relationship extends through the years. And to get it together alongside Justin Weatherill, Ryan, you bring it to the checkered flag. What was that sight like for you?
Yeah, I mean, such a new team, right? So, Justin and I obviously worked together in Ferrari Challenge with Triarci last year, and, they put this whole thing together and invited me to come along and have some fun with it. But, yeah, what a step forward from everybody, from the team, from Justin, even myself, trying to figure out this Ferrari. So he did a heck of a job at the start. I just had to stay in front and not mess up too bad.
Justin, we talked to you on pit lane, and you said this would be an absolute dream for you. Well, it is real. When you saw that checkered flag wave for your car, what went through you?
Oh, I'm just so thankful to be here, a part of the Ferrari family, a part of the Triarci family, and to be able to do this is a dream come true.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Great first win for that duo, and that now puts them more or less in the championship conversation after a difficult start, perhaps a disappointing start to the year, but now they have announced their presence. They're going to be a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, we've got a long way to go in this championship. It's only round 5 today of 13, so a lot can happen in this championship chase. Teams that had a slow start, others are struggling, others are having speed but struggling to execute and get the big points. So long way to go.
From one Triarci duo to another, let's go back to Amanda.
And with 3 wins in a row for this duo, and the sister car with the Pro-Am entry gets the win here as well. How much more sweet is that?
Can't get any better than this. The team did a phenomenal job giving us a great car. Everybody worked well together, and our sister car did a phenomenal job staying out there. Charlie at the start of his race did great keeping up front, and we maintained the pace and stayed clean throughout the whole race.
That's exactly what we're going to talk about. Charlie, you started 4th overall on the grid. Where did you find that this morning?
It was great. It was a great place to be in. Try to stay clean with everybody, fighting for position in other classes from ours, but it was good to be hanging with the guys and learning a lot from that. It was good fun.
Congratulations, team.
Good stuff. 3 wins on the trot for that duo in the AM class. We certainly hope that the AF Corsa car can be repaired, so they'll have some competition for the race tomorrow. And a few teams, Calvin, with a lot of work to do tonight to make race 2 of the weekend.
Yeah, as we look at the highlights here, certainly a great start for the Krapax team there as Agakani gets dropped a little bit from the front row. Lots of action right behind him.
No question about that. Side by side they went. Charlie Scardina dropped back a couple of spots from his initial 4th place qualifying spot. This was the huge moment early in the race. Ashton Harrison into the back of Samantha Tan, and then also caught out JC Sada, AF Corsa, also into the back of the ST Racing BMW. On the restart, though, things got wild. Stephen Agakani up the inside of Misha Goikberg, and Michael Dynan followed him through.
Yeah, Dynan goes from 4th to 2nd there, and they hold on to that for the big points here today. Nice job by Turner Motorsports.
That set up a great fight. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, all of it behind Andrea Caldarelli. This was a door-to-door battle here between K-Pax and US Racetronics. We'd have more of that to come. An incisive move from Agakani from Spinelli to get by. This was some side-by-side stuff here down the back straightaway, which led to Agakani into the back of Goikberg. Ultimately, a cut tire here for Misha Goikberg sent him around and really cost him and Jordan Pepper.
Yeah, and thinking about that, that car was tight already, so Misha was a little bit slow going into that corner. That could have been in the contact there initially, but lots of action going on throughout the course of this race. Big moment there for Jordan Pepper, off and on through those high-speed S's.
But he held on for a podium finish. Meanwhile, the team car picked up the checkered flag for the 5th time here this season in Fanatec GT. Andrea Caldarelli taking that car home to the victory once again. What a great race, exciting day. We'll have another race coming your way tomorrow. Race 2 of the weekend at VIR on the docket. And we hope you join us for that one. Coming up next, it is GT4 America here from Virginia International Raceway.